And welcome to the Midday Show, a late day midday show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. Mark, we're going to talk about...
Be confused with John Thompson.
No. Oh, because I got the... Wasn't it Carnesecca? Didn't he also have a... I know he had the sweater, but didn't he also have a towel?
Jerry Tarkanian.
That's who I'm thinking. UNLV. UNLV used to chew on one. July 13th, 2022, Mark had a concert last night. We're going to talk about it. We're also going to talk about the Glory Days. I think there's a neat conversation about Glory Days. We have not talked about this. I think there's a neat conversation of, like, who had the best Glory Days. Like, I think there's moments, pockets in time where, like, the good old days, the Glory Days, we should talk about that. And then I want to tell you, after you tell me about your night, I want to tell you a little bit about my last couple of days because we were at the Hoop Group Championships, which is one of the biggest tournaments on the East Coast, Division I talent walking all around. I learned something about athletics that I would like to share with you. That's very interesting for, like, parents. I saw things that I would like to share with people. So you'll love this. How are you feeling today?
I feel good.
Yeah? Did you need to recover?
Well, I want to say this before I forget.
Okay, go ahead.
This is my tidbit of the day.
Let's hear it.
For the baseball fans listening.
Okay.
Today, you're not a huge baseball fan, but you are.
Hit me with it.
The 4 hottest teams in Major League Baseball right now,
Okay.
according to win streaks.
Okay.
The Orioles
Yes.
have won 9 in a row.
Okay.
The Mariners have already won today because today's the mid-afternoon show. It's a little late.
Is your mic working?
What's wrong?
Go ahead and say something for me.
Yeah, my own thing. Oh.
How about now? Good call, Bogue. Look at Bogue getting it done. Way to be, little
All right,
Bogue.
I just turned it on. Should we start over again?
Go for it. No, we're not going to start over, but go ahead. Tell us about the Mets. Tell us about the Orioles, whoever.
All right, well, okay. The 4 hottest teams in baseball right now. Sorry
Yeah.
about that delay. The Orioles have won 9 in a row.
Okay.
The Mariners have now, as of an hour ago, have won 9 in a row.
Okay.
The Cincinnati Reds, who I think started 3-23,
Okay.
have won 5 in a row, including a 4-run rally in the 9th to beat the Yankees last night. And the Pittsburgh Pirates have won 4 in a row. So the 4 hottest teams in baseball,
Okay.
the Orioles, the Mariners, the Reds, and the Pirates, you would have had good money betting that that all 4 of those teams never won on the same day all year. And they have won 9 in a row, 9 in a row, 5 in a row, and 4 in a row.
Nice.
Absurd.
Good for them.
All right,
I'm happy for them.
almost as absurd as the concert I went to last night.
Really? It was that absurd?
That was awesome.
Really?
Awesome.
So real quick, Joan Jett, just who
Joan-
was there? I know
Joan
you didn't
Jett
see them
opened.
all, but
Joan
okay.
Jett, Poison was second.
Okay.
Motley Crue went third, and then Def Leppard was fourth.
Okay. Can I ask you questions and then hopefully it will lead you down the... Okay. What was the average age at this concert?
60. No. It was not young.
Okay.
I was average. Okay. I'm going to say in the 40s. Okay. I have never seen as many white-haired people wearing black rock and roll T-shirts. Incidentally, yes. I don't know if you saw my Facebook post.
I did.
They were selling T-shirts, $50.
Yeah.
Because I was like, is that all of them?
Right.
Is that one? We pick up 50, 50 for a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
So
you know what I did?
Inflation.
You know what I did? That's what my buddy says to me. Before Biden, they were only 40. That's what he said. So what I did was came home, got on eBay, and ordered one today. And I'm going to get it for like 20-something, including shipping and handling.
So real quick, the average age was, this is a guess.
It was not young.
Okay.
I might have been right around in the average.
Okay. 50, we'll say 50. Are 50-year-olds better concert goers than like 30-year-olds?
Absolutely.
Okay, why?
Because they're not smashed and puking all over the place.
Okay. Do you feel like they're more in tune to the show of what's actually going on?
That's a good question.
Like, did the crowd feel focused?
Oh my God, yes.
Okay. Here's my issue. The last couple of concerts that I've gone to where it has been a younger crowd, there's a lack of focus within the crowd. And I don't know if it's the generation. I don't know if it's the phones, like constantly trying to film stuff or I don't know what it is. I went to Zach Brown Band, and then there was another one, which was a little older than my typical crowd.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, wow, like everyone's ingrained in what is happening on the stage. And I found it a much better concert viewing experience. So I'm curious, when the average age of a concert is like 50, I feel like it might be a better experience because I feel like more people would be into what's going on.
Well, I think, too, that for people this age, and it's a Tuesday night, and this is another funny aspect, my buddy, who's just, I don't want to say he was throwing him back.
Okay.
But he was on a consistent,
Sure.
It was consistent throughout the day.
Yeah.
And then,
liquid
and the
diet.
middle of the day, he looks at me, he goes, dude, I don't drink anymore on weekdays. And then I looked at him and said, well, today's Tuesday.
Right.
He goes, well, this is a concert. This doesn't count. I was like, oh, okay. Well, you didn't specify that. You just said weekdays. But for those of us, like I would bet you, I mean, it was packed. I don't know what Hershey holds, 30,000 people. It was packed.
Yeah.
Are 25,000 of them only going to this show all year?
Yeah.
And so this is their one night. And for those, I don't want to say that we knew every word to every song, but it's close.
But you did.
And it wasn't just me. It was everyone.
Someone out front said no because they can't stay out past 11 p.m.
Well, the band ended at 11 p.m.
Oh,
so that was when Def Leppard went off. But there is an aspect of, with like 2 songs to go, people started leaving.
Okay.
I left right at the beginning of Photograph, which is what they closed with.
Okay.
Because I wanted to be out and beat the traffic. But yeah, like, don't you remember? I remember, this was way younger. A friend of my girlfriend's went to see Edie Brickell and the New Bohemians.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
She is now married to Paul Simon.
Okay.
Simon and Garfunkel. Is that Neil Simon? Paul Simon. Yeah,
Okay.
Neil Simon's a playwright. And rumor was that she remembers one song and then passed out. And
Okay.
I've been to concerts where young people never got out of the parking lot because they pre-gamed so hard that by the time the show got there. So yes, I would say the old people are better concert goers.
Okay.
I didn't see one person vomit, and there were 30,000 people there.
Right. Charlie says a lot from the Williamsport area went to the concert.
I saw
Okay.
and we were sitting in the section, I saw 2 different people from Montoursville
Okay.
who were in my section. Because one guy walked by me, is a brother of a friend of mine. Another one, I'm sitting there, I was like, does that shirt say Montoursville Wrestling? And then I saw, I knew his mom.
Okay.
So then I went over. But yeah, there were a lot of,
Nice.
I stopped at Sheets there on 322. And I saw 2 realtors from the area that I knew, and they're like, funny seeing you here. I was like, hi.
Yeah.
So
here's my next question. What, like, for you, because this was obviously, you had talked about this kind of weeks leading up to it, and this was a big deal for you, and like for me, it's neat because like I have a couple of like, I have uncles, and my parents get like this sometimes where like you can tell when they're really excited about something, like kind of like the child aspect comes out of them a little bit. And that was you a little bit for this concert. So now that you went and you experienced it, what was the most like fulfilling part? Like, I don't want to say the best part, but like, what was the part of it that like really met your expectation? Like the most fulfilling part of it?
Yeah, that's a good question. One of the, and this is going to sound corny, and I'm glad he's not listening, but it was a college buddy. We graduated, we're pushing 30 years. And so and we got there at 3 to spend like all day with him.
Yeah.
And he's a rock and roll, like he's a drummer in a band. And we knew this, and we're looking at t-shirts because there was 1,000 Motley Crue and Def Leppard t-shirts. But then there's all of a sudden there's a Skid Row t-shirt. And there's a Kicks t-shirt.
Sure.
We even saw a Britney Fox t-shirt, which means nothing to you, but to us, we were like, "Oh my God, there's a Britney Fox t-shirt."
Yeah.
Because there was a band of all dudes named Britney Fox, which I don't know why that was, but that's what they were. So, so just hanging with him was fun. He lives in Shamokin, and it's one of those things we should see each other more, but we don't.
Yeah.
So everybody sounded relatively good.
Okay.
Like I thought Joan Jett sounded great. I thought Def Leppard sounded great. Sometimes Vince Neil's vocals struggle. I thought he did well.
Okay.
Now, he was supported by the greatest backup singers in history.
Do you want me to show?
Do you want to show? Yes.
And who? Explain to me again. Who were these? These were for
Motley Crue.
Okay.
This is Motley.
So these were the backup singers for Motley Crue.
Yes. This is a picture I took off the screen.
And I want to say one more time for context, in case people are just now tuning in. These are the backup singers for
Motley Crue.
By the way, please tell me this was the only photo you took the entire night.
No, it's not.
Okay,
it's not.
Because that would have been fun.
Motley Crue has done a wonderful job. They've been around, as Nikki Sixx said, 41 years. They have done a wonderful job throughout their entire career of finding ways to get strippers on stage and make it look like they were really part of the show. Whether these girls sang, like they were singing on the screen, you could, and there were whether they Milli Vanilli'd it or not, I don't know.
Right.
Later in the show, when Def Leppard came up, because we're up in the bleachers, we snuck our way down because we're cool and stealth like that.
Yes.
And we were sitting like 20 rows from, and we were next to these other girls that we just met. And she's like, "We've been here the whole time, and their mics were not on. I couldn't hear a word they said." And we're like, "Sure, they could. Don't be a hater. They're professionals. They're professionals."
Yeah.
But
see, speaking of professional, I just want to clarify. You would have taken the same picture if it was, 4 young men.
Just because of their vocal skills
you
in
would
backup.
Yes.
Vocal,
you would have
I'm
taken
just
the
there
picture.
for the show.
You would have taken the picture regardless.
Vocal
I just want to clarify.
They were
that.
professionals, and they were great. Now, I'll tell you what else was, because what were the two things I complained about last week? How long it was going to be.
So that was going to be my last question for you, was you were worried about how long it was going to be and kind of how hot it was. You were worried about how hot it was. So I was kind of like Mr. Optimist. I was kind of saying, like, listen, like, once you're down there, I think you're going to, like, it's the excitement, the rhythm, like, I think you'll get past it. Did you get past it?
Well, here's what happened.
Oh, you did tell me about this. Sorry.
We're walking in.
Yeah.
Thunderstorm.
Yeah, you told me about this.
So we are cowering under the stadium, waiting for it. And then they cleared the stadium because of lightning. And they were actually, we think, because we saw a crowd of people just migrating that way. Migration was the word I was looking for. I couldn't come up with it. They were sending them into the old, I don't know if it's the old Giant Center, but one of the old arenas for people to sit.
Yes.
Because they couldn't stay in the seating bowl because of the lightning. Once it stopped, and then it was 77 degrees.
Right.
So the rain and the storm had kind of blew the heat away. And we literally walked out from under. Once they opened the gate and started letting people back in, we walked out from under the stadium, walked around, and I'm telling you, within 2 minutes, Joan Jett started.
Okay.
So the downtime, like, it sucked waiting underneath.
Yeah.
Because you're a little sardinish.
Sure.
But once you got back in, they were going.
Yeah.
And there was very little downtime between shows. One of the things that sucks about concerts is you'll have 45 minutes or an hour between sets sometimes. Yeah. They were ripping them through. So, and because they got started then late, because of I think Joan Jett, I think a couple bands lost. They're like, instead of playing 9 songs, now you're going to play 8. Instead of playing 11 songs, you're going to play. But it just ripped right on through. So the energy was great. I can't believe how many people were there, because I saw Def Leppard there with REO Speedwagon a couple years ago.
It was a Tuesday.
Yeah, and this is a show from 2010.
Yeah,
they got pushed to 2011. Then they got pushed again to 2012. So, and not
you
only
mean 2020
or 2022. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to. Make sure,
It was supposed to be 2 years ago. So not only, it's not just like it got delayed, but not just this show got canceled, but all the shows got canceled.
Yeah.
So people have been waiting for a long time.
Do you think, I'm curious if you felt this way and if you think the crowd felt this way, was there a sentiment for a lot of people that, like, this could be the last time?
Well, when you get old like us, and one of the things that my buddy and I did was we sat there during the show or between bands or whatever, and we talked about how many musicians shouldn't be alive anymore.
Right.
And like Motley Crue probably has 2 of them.
Okay.
Nikki Sixx's drug usage, which he's talked about in credit, and Mick Mars has he's in his 70s now. He's the lead guitar player, and he has some bone issue that, like, nobody thought Mick would still be here and still be able to go out on stage. Now he doesn't move very much, but they showed his hand, and he's like still standing there playing.
Yeah.
So as you watch some of these, like to think that these bands that just drank their way through their careers, and
Sure.
Motley Crue, the heroin addiction, and that they're still there and still going. And it was the 4 original Motley guys. It was the 4 original Poison guys. It was Def Leppard had a guy die way back in the 80s, and I'm not sure, but the rest of them are still there. The one guy, they said, Phil, the guitar player, they said he was hired 40 years ago last night.
Huh.
So I don't know, I don't know why they would make that up.
Right.
So,
That's
but
pretty
it was and once it became, sitting outside at 78 degrees.
Right.
It couldn't have been better. It wasn't, if it had been 86 degrees, it would have still been tolerable but expected. But once it's in the high 70s, it was almost room temperature.
So you were worried for nothing, is what you were saying.
I mean, mostly, probably.
Yeah,
but it was fun. It was really fun, and
That's
I'm
awesome.
glad I went and I got home. I pulled in right at 1 o'clock in the morning, so it wasn't that late.
Yeah.
I mean, it was late, but it wasn't that late, and I'm really glad I went. And I think from what I'm reading online, everybody
was happy.
And I'm not sure how much they play over vocal tracks, because I'm sure they do. And now they've gotten it so better to, that they want to make it sound as good as possible.
Yeah.
So, but to me, I don't care, because I could hear Vince Neil singing. I could hear Joe Elliott singing.
Yeah.
Obviously the guys are playing guitar. So it was just fun, but the energy was fun. And the live music, especially outdoors.
Yeah.
There's something about live music outdoors that is fun.
Yeah. Was there a, because kind of like the Glory Days aspect of it, I don't want to ask you if it felt older, did you forget it wasn't 2022 essentially? Okay. So it wasn't it didn't necessarily take
one
you
of the
back.
things that they keep saying is, 40, he was hired 40 years ago tonight.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my God, these guys are in their 60s.
Yeah.
And Nikki Sixx is we've been doing this for 41 years. They're all thanking the crowd. And
sure.
Brett Michaels is from Mechanicsburg. I don't know if you knew that. Lead singer from Poison. Poison is Brett Michaels is from Mechanicsburg. The drummer, Ricky Rockin, went to Cedar Cliff.
Okay.
And Bobby Dahl, the bass player, went to somewhere else down there, and I didn't hear what he said, but they're all, the lead guitarist is from LA.
So for them,
but
that's
the other three, he's I'm home.
Yeah,
He was
concert
pumped.
for them.
And he kept saying, between every song, he was we are so happy to be home. We are so, and maybe 4 or 5 songs into his set, he's you really can't wipe the smile off my face. Yeah. And it sounded so sincere. Because I said to my buddy, I don't know if his parents are still alive. He said his dad was in his 80s and was in the news because he was in the hospital. But I think they were. But I was he probably slept at home last night.
Yeah.
Because they're in Mechanicsburg. And where's Cedar Cliff's right outside of Harrisburg,
right
isn't it?
Yes. Yep.
Because he even said they've been best friends since 7th grade, him and the drummer. So that was cool, even just as a human being.
Oh yeah.
That's for them to play Hershey. And he said the first concert he ever saw was in the what they call it, the Cow Palace.
Yeah.
What they call it now, in the Hershey Arena, whatever. Where
when you're first coming in to down.
Because he even said where the Bears play, and then everyone went ah.
Yeah.
So, it was really
cool.
fun. And I'm going to ask you this, because I was thinking about this on my way down. And again, this is an old rock and roll show for an old guy like me.
Mm-hmm.
Joan Jett, Poison, Motley Crue, Def Leppard. I am going to be rock and roll.
Sure.
I'm about to have my fill of it. So on the drive there, I listened to Bob Marley. Do you do that? Do because
so
is
you
that
cleansed
typical?
your palate essentially.
Yeah, I didn't. I knew the rock and roll was coming. I didn't. I wanted to go somewhere different. Is that?
But were you by yourself?
Yes.
I think that dynamic changes it up too. Because
in the car by myself.
Yeah, I think if you're riding with a group of people, it would be hard to cleanse the palate. I think there's too many people too excited about what they're going to see that it would be hard to avoid playing at least that genre. Right?
Okay.
You may not listen to the artist on repeat, but it'd be hard not to play the genre with a group of people. Individually, it's a good question. I've never driven to a concert by myself. So I don't know if now you have my wheels turning. It's a very good question. If I was gonna go see Kanye, would I listen to Kanye on the way there? I don't know. It's a good question.
Because I've done it the other way. I've had them, or you hear a song by a band that you either haven't heard in 100 years or whatever.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, that's a good song. and I want to hear it again on the way home, I've done that.
Okay.
But I wanted to go, like, I try to steer clear of, I certainly don't listen to the band on the way there. And I was like, what should I listen to? I was looking through, and it's summer. Because Bob Marley, I don't know how you play Bob Marley in November. Yeah. Like, Bob Marley is when it's hot out and when it's, and so that's what I listen to on the way down.
No, it's a good question. If you're listening, comment whether or not you would actually, if you would cleanse the palate with something else, or if you would listen to the band that you're about to see. Anything else before I switch gears on?
Do you have one that, didn't you tell me? Are the boy bands coming? Are you going?
I'm not going to the boy bands at all this summer. I'm not seeing any.
Is it New Kids? Is New Kids out?
New Kids on the Block is out. Backstreet Boys has been going around
the
country. Yes. I think I told you about, they just had Drake come on the show in
I
Toronto.
knew you told me Drake came on, and I couldn't remember who
they were in Toronto. Drake came out and sang I Want It That Way with them, which basically broke, like, if 35 and under, broke the internet. I mean, you couldn't get on your social media stuff without seeing it. So
and what's crazy about it, Bruce Springsteen just announced his tour for next year yesterday.
Okay.
So I didn't know this.
Okay.
I'm reading it today. I'm still a little tired from yesterday. And I'm a little, fatigued. And then I see this and I'm like, ooh, I gotta rev myself back up for next March.
So here is this is the best. Jeff is waiting for DMB to make his way through again. You know DMB? Dave Matthews Band.
Oh,
they call him Dave. Here,
Do you like Dave Matthews?
Oh, so this is, I am notorious for this. I cannot stand Dave Matthews Band.
I'm not a fan either.
The two things, I will say this. I've seen them in concert twice because of groups of friends who wanted to go see it. And who says no to it?
Because what says I can't stand a band more than going to see them twice?
But again, like you and I have talked about this, like, I feel like for younger people, concerts are an event.
You were just
not
going
the
for the
music.
Yes.
Right. It's just the world we grew up in. I will say this. In concert, there's like the instrumental aspect of it is at least entertaining.
Absolutely.
Like that part of it I get. The people who can actually listen to Dave Matthews Band in the car, I don't understand you. It also drives me insane that fans refer to him as Dave, the Dave. Like he is the only Dave. Like no other Dave exists. And that drove me nuts when I was going through college. Because people would be like, you want to listen to Dave? And I would be like, who is Dave? Dave Matthews. And I'd be like, he's not Dave. Like I promise you there are more important and better Daves than Dave.
There are bands. I've told people this, I don't get Steely Dan.
Okay.
I don't know why people would, and Dave Matthews is one of them. I don't, and I'm sure he has songs that if they come on, I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't go out of my way. And I could not imagine listening to 6 Dave Matthews songs. You know who else doesn't like Dave Matthews? The people who are on that boat going under the tour bus. You never heard that story?
No.
His tour bus was going over a bridge.
Okay.
And it was one of those bridges. Do you remember the old Maynard Street Bridge used to be graded? It wasn't.
No, I didn't know that. But I know the green bridges had the grade.
So it hums when you go over it. So the rain can go through it. And it's like, So the tour bus was going over the bridge and dumped the sewage
onto the boat.
And there was a boat going underneath and they just dumped it all over and they paid some huge fine. Yeah, Google it. This was 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. This is a while.
Sounds like something Dave would do to me.
Dave. Well, Dave. Now, after hearing your review of Dave, he wishes you were on that boat.
Darn it, Dave. That was it. So here, real quick, because we're going to get off here in probably like 10 minutes. I was at the Hoop Group Championships for girls basketball. And for those who don't know, it's at Spooky Nook, which is near Harrisburg, PA. Massive facility. 25 games going on at one time. There were over 75 17U girls teams. So 17 and under. Total teams probably pushed over 200 teams at this one tournament. These are
because they have 17 youths, 15 youths,
all the way down.
So there was just 75 in that one group.
And these, the main select brackets, these are your cream of the crop. These are girls that are going to be Division I scholarship level athletes. Absolutely phenomenal. Like you watch some of these games in the fluidity, in the pace, in the reaction time, in the skill level. Just unbelievable talent and athletic ability in the gym, in this facility. As I am sitting there, as I'm watching it, what I realize is all these different divisions and all the ages are subdivided and all this stuff. Very few people, the people in that building kind of get the talent and ability of their kid. It's very unique to anybody who's only ever gone to your local Little League field or gone to your high school football game, because everybody in that gym knows that's what the 5th best player in the country looks like. And it's right there in front of you, and you can't get away from it. And that's what a Division I center, a 6'2" girl dominating down low looks like. And it's right there. You can't get it. So what happens then is, if your daughter's like a Division III player, or if she's just a very good high school player who might not play in college, you get it.
You get it.
There is no, like, you can't say like, well, I think she's Division I, because you look 2 courts down and you realize, well, no. Like, she wouldn't be able to play there. So I believe, this is my personal opinion after being there all weekend, I think every parent of a high school athlete should have to go to one of these events. They should have to go to a East Coast national event where they have to see the best athletes on the East Coast play, so they have a full grasp of like how good some of these people are. Because I'm telling you, it changes the whole mindset of the
I'm
facility.
telling you what, and I got a couple funny stories now that you mention it. A guy that you coached, Gerald Ross Jr.
Okay.
I went to college with his dad
Yes.
at Susquehanna. There it is. Look at that. Just a coincidence. I wore it today. And he was at one of those, and I don't know what level he was at.
Yes.
But because the old man played it at Susquehanna, was a really good Division III basketball player, good play.
Yes.
And he said to his son, who's how 6'2"?
Yeah, Gerald was like 6'2", could play. Like,
good,
really good.
Super Central Pennsylvania.
I believe Chris Massey picked him for the Sun Gazette Player of the Year his senior year.
Okay.
So he was essentially, in Chris Massey's opinion, he was the best player in the area when he was a senior.
So dad says to Junior while they're at this, and he's at like, the 1 level or whatever. Right. He's like, let's go watch the Superstars.
Sure.
And he's like, I took my son down, and my kid was like, oh.
Yes.
This is what, and he's like dad knew.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, wow, this is what the really good ones
really different.
And I remember that, just being here and growing up, and it was more than once I heard someone say, this kid could be the next Mike Messina. Mm-hmm. And I was at a senior league all-star game. This kid was like 15, and they won. And the kid threw fine, and his dad was the coach, and whatever they won. And his dad was quoted in the Sun Gazette as saying, this is the best Little League pitching performance probably since Mike Messina. And I'm just like, it's hard. You don't know how good the good ones are.
You just don't.
Until you see all the good ones.
And you can't watch video. You have to be in person. I have told you before, one of my eye-opening experience, because I was a decent basketball player. Like, I was good enough to play college basketball. You're better than decent. I was good enough to play college basketball, and I remember I was a decent basketball player, and I didn't play college basketball. I was going into my senior season, and I went to one of these prestigious camps, 5-star basketball down in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania. And the way they break up the camp, most camps, like, here's your seniors, here's your juniors, here's your sophomores. At 5-star, they didn't do that. The way they break you up is who's recruiting you. So you have a D1 level, you have a D2 level, you have a D3 level, and then you have a non-recruited.
And then you have intramurals.
You have you have people that are hoping to be seen and maybe move up into.
Get into. Yeah.
I played at the D3. I started at the D3. Middle of the week, I moved up to the D2, and then at the end of the week, I went back down on championship day to the D3 level, because they'll move you depending on who's watching you, engaging you. When I moved up to the D2 level, and again, ages don't matter. I'm standing in the circle, and there's like a 7-foot senior. To the left of me, there's like this 6-foot guard from Chicago in 8th grade. So now I'm 17, and I'm playing with a 13-year-old. And all of a sudden, my wheels start turning, and I'm like, oh, like, people are really good. Like, this kid's already at my level, and he's 13, and half of the team was, 14, 15. None of them were my age, right? And so, like, I just wish more parents, more coaches, more players, I wish would have the opportunity that like I had, or even like you getting to see, go around and see that stuff. Even like our girls that got to play it this weekend, it was very eye-opening for them. And like understanding like, well, geez, like if I want to play in college, like that's how good I have to be. And now I have to work at it. And so I wish parents around the area, especially like if you grew up in a rural area, the sooner you can do it, the better off you're going to be as a player, the better off you're going to be as a parent. It just gives you perspective. And it just kind of, I don't want to say it puts you in your place, but it just alleviates the stress, and it allows you to view it from a realistic angle now.
Well, I remember the first time I went to the first big time college basketball game I ever went to was University of Maryland. And this is back in the 90s. And, you see these guys on TV, and you see college basketball players on TV. And the same with college football players, but they have helmets on uniform. You can't really see them.
Right.
You see a college basketball player on TV, and he is a man. Yeah. He is 6'6", and you see him from even, if you get down close enough and you can see him during warmups or whatever, you can see him from 30 feet away.
Yes.
And then you realize he's this big strapping kid.
Yes.
And from here, he's got a baby face. He's got pimples.
Right.
But then the rest of him is just this physique but I remember the first thing I saw is, oh my God, he's just a kid.
Yeah.
Like he's way younger than me.
Right.
But he's 6'8", and he can run up and down the floor, and he can dunk, and he can do all these things.
Yes.
That is one of the eye-opening. One of the other things, and this happens in baseball because baseball is one of these great games. I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Jose Ramirez is going to be a Hall of Famer. Nobody knows who the hell he is. He's a third baseman from Cleveland, and he's 5'9". And he's 5'9", 190, and he just hits, I don't know. He's like Dustin Pedroia. Yeah. There have been little baseball players who've survived. Jose Altuve's 5'6".
Yeah.
But when you get Derek Jeter's like 6'4".
Yeah.
And when you get up to these guys, some of them are kind of normal size, but they're just not. And even the ones that are 6 foot are just thicker and bigger. Totally. And you just walk by him and you're like, he's a different 6 foot than I am.
Yes.
And but because baseball's so spread out, like in basketball, they're all tall, but then they walk by the ref. And you're like, oh my God, he is big.
Well, and the other thing that happens too in college basketball is like you'll see these point guards. Like you'll see these guys that are maybe 5'9" to 6'2", but when you see them, they almost look awkward when you see them in person because like broad shoulders, like big thighs, like they're built differently. They don't look like you and I have talked about like I kind of like I'm weirdly built. Like I'm stocky, like I have broad shoulders, like I have like I'm, Polish, like I have like the big thighs. So like even when I was playing Division II, like I didn't look like a 5'10", 165 pounds. Like I could kind of load up and I could use, and so there is like people are just built so differently. And until you go to these things, you just don't get it.
And it's on the other side in the entertainment world. So often entertainers are smaller than you think.
What you think?
Athletes are just bigger than you think.
Yeah.
And
totally. It's just different. Even we were going to like coming men's basketball games here locally, which is Division III for anybody outside of the area. And one of the things that our players couldn't get over was just how much broader and bigger like the men's college basketball players are. Like they're just big and heavy set, and like there's just there's just a manliness to them.
There is.
It's just different. The last thing, and I'll leave it. We were watching a team from New Jersey play, and every girl on the court is like 6 foot and just long. Like it's unbelievable the length that these girls have. And at one point we're watching it, ball goes off of the rim, and this girl leaps in the air, and she's grabbing it like as it's coming off of the rim, and she's like coming up grabbing it, and as she's landing, she is already like projecting down the floor. And as soon as she comes off and she's already leaning up, she's about to put it on the floor for her first dribble, and she sees somebody ahead of her, and just like that, flick of the wrist, and the ball goes 70 feet up floor, and they lay it in. And you could see some of our girls were kind of like she knew what she was going to do with it before it even. I was like, she just processed and did more in 2 seconds than what an average player in our area processes in 10. And that's the stuff that like I just wish people could see how good people are around the country. it's unbelievable how good some of these athletes are.
Yes, and it is for one of the hardest things for parents to do is accurately evaluate their kid.
Sure.
Because some parents, all they do is see what their kid did wrong and they scream at their kid the whole day. And some parents, all they remember is what their kid did right.
Yeah.
And they're like, why doesn't my kid play more? My kid did this and my kid. And you're like, well, yeah, in all the time that your kid was in, he did a couple good things.
Right.
But he did these things, like, do you not notice this part?
Right.
So it is very hard.
It's interesting. We'll leave it at this. He says, and then you have Aaron Judge, who could be an NFL tight end. Very, very true.
Well, it is. I think there are so many of them that if that had been their destination, maybe not. Maybe Aaron Judge couldn't play basketball because you still got to be able to shoot and you still got to be able to. But there are a lot of. I think there are an incredible number of NBA players who could be a wideout or a tight end, like Antonio Davis.
It's my swimming argument that I've made to you.
Yes,
I don't think the best swimmers swim.
Right.
Like I think the best. I think we've missed out on the best, and that's not a knock on Michael Phelps, but like I think we've missed the best swimmers because they were busy doing something else that made more money.
And you can see there are lots of athletes who, if their sport had never been invented and had to play this other one, that they would have been really good.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm with you.
Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
That's it. That's all I got. Rock on.
Rock on. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina, and we will see you tomorrow.